There are new Agent Opus features that could be changing YouTube storytelling forever. I'm joined with Roberto Blake, and we are going to be talking about some of the storytelling features that Agent Opus has been put out. So, if you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to go ahead and get us started right away with it. So, you can give Agent Opus a try through the top link in the description or that QR code on screen. And you may know Agent Opus for some of the stuff it's been doing, but one of the new things, and Roberto hasn't seen this yet, so I'm excited to show him too, is you can feed it stories. And one of the stories is actually a Roberto Blake story. I knew he might have an idea when he sees the first shot here of what this story is, but if he doesn't, you'll get to see a live reaction. So Roberto, you might hear yourself because I'm sharing the audio of this and you're in stream, but
yeah, no, it's fine.
Here we go.
2017, I'm walking through the Anaheim Convention Center, my VidCon badge swinging from my lanyard. This is my second VidCon, and thousands of creators and fans are packed into one massive space. I can hear excited chatter echoing off the high ceilings and see YouTube logos plastered everywhere. I step onto the escalator heading to the third floor. My phone buzzes. It's Roberto Blake confirming we're still meeting up. Roberto and I have been doing Saturday live streams together, talking YouTube strategy, and we wanted to capture some VidCon content for our audiences. The escalator delivers me to the third floor. I spot Roberto standing about 30 feet away near a row of booths. I wave. He looks up and waves back with a smile. I start walking toward Roberto, weaving between small clusters of people. I'm maybe 15 feet away now. Suddenly, to my immediate left, a woman stops dead in her tracks. Her eyes are locked on Roberto. She gasps loudly and shouts, "Oh my God, it's Roberto Blake!" And then she collapses directly onto me. I feel her weight hit my left side. I manage to catch her partially, keeping her from hitting the floor completely. I'm now crouched down, supporting this stranger who just fainted from seeing a YouTuber. "Hey, I need help here," I call out. VidCon staff appear within seconds. Someone mentions calling medical. I pull my VidCon pamphlet from my pocket and start fanning her face. "Hey, are you okay?" Her eyes flutter open. "Yes," she says weakly. Then her eyes drift to Roberto. "I can't believe that's Roberto. I've watched him for years." Medical staff checks her out. She's okay, just overwhelmed. Roberto kneels down next to her. "Can we take a photo?" she asks. "Of course," Roberto says warmly. I help her to her feet as they pose together. She's beaming. After the photo, she turns to me. "Wait, how do you know Roberto?" I explain that we do Saturday live streams together about YouTube growth. "I watch those too," she exclaims. As Roberto and I walk away, something clicks. I've known Roberto personally. We do weekly live streams together. But I just saw someone literally faint because they spotted him across a hall. This is the moment I truly understand the difference between knowing a creator personally and understanding their impact. Nearly a decade later, I still think about that woman. I think about how Roberto made someone faint just by existing in a space. People are always watching. Your content matters. Your influence has real impact on real people.
And that is a story of Roberto from my point of view. And that was completely generated by Agent Opus story mode, which we will do a full tutorial on. I did notice this comment from Eva. No, that's the AI. It doesn't understand that much context, but what it does understand.
You didn't have stuff to feed it, I think, in terms of source material.
No, it's all based on just the story I told it, and it came up with this. And I want us to kind of take a look at this, and some of the stuff it gets really well, some of it kind of misses, but you know, I describe VidCon, and it pretty much nails even the older logo, because they've changed their logo since. So I was really impressed it got that. Some of the banners it got, you know, like I talk about a filled conference, there's this. And then one of the things I thought was pretty impressive is how it nailed the YouTube like top logo here. So it was really interesting because, you know, it even got how I described the rafters in my story. And if you look here, that's these rafters. This is the YouTube logo. And all from just a story I told it, it was able to generate this. And this is a surprise and delight thing for me. I think being able to, you know, tell a story. Roberto knows that story, but I don't know if he's ever seen it, well, animated.
No, and obviously I've not seen it animated. Was this, by the way, I want to ask, was this Natasha?
I can't remember if it was, God, what was her name? I'm blanking. I think of her more than, because honestly, I met her briefly. She was more excited to meet you. I mostly remember the feeling of her fainting, but it might have been Natasha.
I don't think it was Natasha.
But I love how it got the text right. I love how there's so much that it was able to gather. Now, it's funny because at this time, Roberto and I were doing live streams, but they were through the different coast to coast. This has been fixed. Thank you for flagging, Eva. And so
the echo's fixed. Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah. But one thing I noticed, Roberto, it kind of got your style right here. It didn't get a lot else, but I'm like, that's pretty much Roberto's style.
That's
so
my
it
aesthetic.
Had
yeah.
An idea, but it's still, this is where, like, you know, as creatives, I know the difference. I also thought it was interesting, a long shot, and it said Roberto, but it gets it pretty close a lot of the times. And I think for a starting point, this is really fun. And you know what this reminds me of? Those old school, like, draw my
life.
Yes. So I have another story, which this is just one style, and I want to show another story in a little bit, but I want to show off this tool, which is what we're here to do today. And it's in Agent Opus. It is called Story Mode. You'll see it with the new, and if you're watching this in the future, it'll just be down here. And from here, there are multiple different styles we can go for. So there's claymation, 2D line, animation, collage, Claire, pen and ink, halftone, schematic, watercolor, blue vox. And then the cool thing is there are a bunch of other things that you can do. So you start by, you can tell it yourself. You can upload your own audio. So if Roberto wanted to tell a story, or if he has a story in his Agent Opus account, or if he has in an Opus clip, maybe he has clipped out a story from a podcast, he can upload the audio file here. Then he can choose 16 by 9, 9 by 16, or 1:1. And then he can either, you know, if he uploads this file, he won't need it. But if you don't, if you have a voice clone, you could use it. I just used a preset here. And then you pick your style, or you can add a style. So you can upload an image to give it a reference of what you're looking for or describe it. And I'll show an example after this of one I described. And so these are just some of the ways you can run it. And then you just tell it your story. Don't prompt it here per se. Tell it the story itself. If you look at the Roberto video we did, one thing you may notice in the right-hand side is the transcript. This is the story I gave it. And I could download this now, or I could share it. But this is how simple it is. You tell it your story, and then it will create something new. So what I would love to do is, while we're going through this, is maybe, Roberto, you can think of a story and you can send it my way and we can like work on it together. But I also want to show off how, even though there are some select styles in this, you know, there's 2D, there are also some that are down here that if you want to use, you would click on, click, use this style, and you can use the style of others you see. So it's become a lot more collaborative. And one of the things I did is a Daniel story. And you might notice the aesthetic I gave it. I gave it a specific custom style. And if you are an Eagle Eye viewer, you should know the style immediately. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one, and hopefully we'll take a look at how it does. But Roberto, can I get your thoughts just of what you've seen so far?
I love this, dude. It is actually very simple in terms of having an idea in your head and turning a thought into a thing. And I love that. I love how creative you can get with this. Again, like, think about this. The level of technical ability and skill you'd have to communicate your ideas is what's really holding most people back, right? Mm-hmm. That's why they can't necessarily do these things. But now you'd be able to basically focus on being a very good ideator, a very good visionary, a very good script writer. And you'd have a way to communicate and bring that idea to life that otherwise would not exist. And I think that that's kind of the key here. And that's what I'm looking at. And that's what I like about this a lot. And I think people really are undervaluing the concept of something as simple as quote unquote text to video, because I do think it requires good communication. Then, like you said, if you add reference material, then it gets things right. When it doesn't, you get the decaf version of Roberto Blake.
And I think as they get better at this, they'll have, you know, more abilities to change. But I love the idea that, Roberto, you could upload your own voice. Like, you could just tell a story from, whether it's a video you already have, if you have that audio file, it'll also generate the the story based on that, which I really am excited for.
Yeah,
So this is a showcase of custom style. So this was, as someone who likes the Lego movie, Lego stop motion, it should be really obvious what this is, but just to be clear, there's some details here that we'll talk about, and I want you to pay close attention to, Roberto, because after this, we are going to dive deep into how it did and what your thoughts are. So I'm gonna have it to where it'll hear the background, so there might be a slight echo of Roberto just because how
sure.
StreamYard works, but I'll make sure to unmute it to remute it when we are done. So let's go ahead and hit play. I actually have not seen this yet, so we're reviewing this at the same time, but I do know the story. I don't know if you know this story, Roberto. If you don't, social media marketing world was an interesting time. We'll put it this way.
I'm Daniel Batal, and I needed XLR cables for a video we were recording at Social Media Marketing World in San Diego. We hopped in an Uber to a local guitar shop, and Daniel ran inside while I waited in the car with our Uber driver. Our Uber driver was a woman, probably in her late 20s. She turned around from the front seat and looked at me in the back. "So, are you and your dad visiting from out of town, or are you guys local?" I blinked. My dad? I processed what she just said. Daniel Batal, my friend and fellow creator, was apparently now my father. A few things ran through my mind. 1, Daniel isn't my dad. 2, I'm actually familiar with the area. And 3, why did she assume that? "Oh, I'm familiar with San Diego, actually," I said, not addressing the dad comment yet. "We're just here for the conference." She nodded and smiled. Then came the curveball. "That's cool. My mom and I are both single, you know. We're always looking to meet new people." I felt the tone in that Uber change. Where was Daniel? How long does it take to grab XLR cables? I needed backup. "Oh, that's nice," I said, trying to stay polite but vague. Then she turned around again, this time with a more direct approach. "So what are your plans for tonight?" My brain scrambled. I needed an exit strategy that didn't involve explaining my entire relationship status or correcting the dad thing while trapped in the back of a moving vehicle. "Oh, we're filming a video tonight. Me and him? Really busy schedule?" I doubled down on the need to film narrative. It felt safer. "Oh, that's sweet," she said. "Well, if you're ever free, let me know. I can." Just then, thank God, Daniel opened the car door and slid into the back seat next to me, XLR cables in hand. The energy shifted immediately. She straightened up, turned back to the wheel, and changed the subject entirely. "So you guys all set? Where to next?" The rest of the ride was normal small talk about the conference and San Diego traffic. As we got out of the Uber, Daniel looked at me. "What was that about?" "Dude," I said, "she thought you were my dad, and then she tried to set us up with her and her mom." Daniel laughed. "What?" "So here's what I learned. If you and a friend need XLR cables at a marketing conference, hurry."
So that's a real story, by
It's
the way.
amazing.
Roberto.
See, this is anybody can now. Anybody can. Do you remember how, like, one of my favorite content creators of all time is Swoozy, and he's basically
Yeah.
the godfather of animated story time?
Yeah.
Anyone who's ever had an interesting life but didn't ever want to show their face on camera, or even if they did a little bit, but wanted to do an animated story time, now has the capacity to do a reasonable animated story time. And that's all about your delivery, your voice, the actual story that happened. And it would be interesting to people, and people will watch this. I know some people will be willing or wanting to call this AI slop or say learn to animate, learn software, do all this. But the thing is, from a viewer standpoint, a viewer does not care how the sandwich got made. They care about how it tastes.
Yeah. And also, this isn't perfect. Opus is always upfront that they're working to make this better. If I wanted to, this gives me a much better storyboard to be like, hey, here's a rough idea of what I like. Here's what I like about this. Here's what I don't like. And so I always appreciate how Opus is very upfront that, it's a great starting off point and this is going to improve. But if I was trying to describe this and I'm like, hey, and I want this in a Lego style, an animator would look at me like, okay, how?
I just don't necessarily look, even to get something inaccurate as a rough cut would take an animator like 50 hours to do this whole thing. To be honest, for it to not even be probably as good. And that's just the difference between communication and them not being there, not being in person. Maybe if they're in person, it takes 20 to 30 hours, and then it's like 89% of what you want. Then some revisions, blah, 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 blah. Re-rendering would be a freaking nightmare. So I know people are defensive about this from a art standpoint on the AI art conversation, but I just think for most people, both on the producer side and then on the consumer side, are not as invested in that painstaking process as people want to think they are, we do kind of acknowledge it. We do think, okay, that's cool that you can do that, or oh wow, that takes time. Oh, I can't do that. That's impressive. So I understand that it feels like it's cheating or a shortcut or getting devalued by there. But here's the thing. As someone who wants to do something, and then as someone who wants to consume something, I don't really have an issue when I'm getting anywhere from 50 to 90% of what I want, and it is taking 99.9% less time. I just don't. I think this is cool. I think this is amazing. I cannot wait to play with this more myself. I just need my account to have it now. And I could see how someone who has 1,000,001 ideas in their head could finally be a content creator with this. I definitely see the value.
Yeah, and you know, these were just so I could show demos to Roberto. Like I actually worked on these probably, I mean, this is still my writing. I had to write this in a way that it actually could read it well. Some of the earlier drafts were not as good, I will be real. But this is also where, like, after I've written this,
I think
could,
writing requires more creativity than the technical ability. Because like animating doesn't require technical, like, sorry, rephrase that. Animating doesn't require creative ability. Drawing doesn't even necessarily require creative ability, but we'll call it art because what it requires is technical skill. And there's a difference between creativity and skill. There's a difference between the creativity of having an imagination, that's creativity. The execution and bringing that thing to life so people can consume it is an extension of that creativity, but that's down to tech, that's down to time, resources, tools, technique, training. Someone can be very good at drawing anything they see. That doesn't make them creative. That makes them a technician if you can draw Bugs Bunny or the Tasmanian Devil, because that was how people knew that we were quote unquote artistic in middle school, right? But that's not our original idea. Our original idea, our original character, we wouldn't necessarily get the same praise for that, even though that is an extension of raw creativity. You get praised on your technical ability to execute in a known framework that is an extension of creative expression. And don't get me wrong, it takes talent, but not creative talent in terms of it takes no imagination. Writing takes imagination and communication skills as a much better expression of raw creativity in terms of writing, because being a good technical writer doesn't make you creative, but being able to do genuinely expressive creative writing and storytelling. Being a storytelling is a greater extension and expression of creativity than the technical skill of filming, producing, drawing, or even animating. That's all technical. And so since it's technical, that's why machines can do a lot of that work. That's how we even got traditional computer animation before CGI was about tweening. If you ever did Adobe Flash, now Adobe Animate, it was called tweening and keyframes and making individual extension action frames. I used to be a Flash animator and action script developer. It used to be that you could go ahead and you could do the intermediate steps and basically storyboard and draw 6 images instead of 24 to 30 images. And then the program would do the tweening for you in between. And that was still you being considered a legitimate animator because you did the other 3 or 6 action frames like a comic book person would do, like a comic illustrator would do.
Speaking of comics, this shot here is very comic to me, where it has that like close up, but then, you know, this is when it was talking about Daniel as he's just a fellow creator. And look at the mini details, right? Like it even has his Lego camera setup, his filming. It has me concerned. It does pretty well. But one thing you may notice, and you know, Opus is up front about it, that sometimes the characters change. That's more of a limit of the AI itself. But even this, like me thinking in the middle of it, like just some of the minor details it came up with, like it's very interesting to see. And like some of this I like, and some of it I would say, hey, I love this idea. Not really a fan of this one. But this, like, if you notice Roberto's reaction during this, I don't know if we've ever told you this story. This is a real thing that happened to us, by the way.
I've never heard this story.
This story was literally right before. This is when we were filming in that hot room in social media marketing world, that one room in the old OG offices. And me and Daniel desperately needed a cable because along the way XLR cables fray. And so here we are. There's no parking in downtown San Diego, which is why I was still in the cars is roaming and the woman is still driving around. And yes, Agent Opus made this. People are surprised. It made it based on the story I told it, and I did have to give it a custom style. But I think if you want to give this a shot, it's going to be rolling out to more and more people here soon. It is a newer feature. Like most things in Agent Opus, it is in beta. So if you haven't given it a shot yet, please scan the QR below, give it a shot. And I want to take some time to answer some of these questions we have. And, Roberto and I are just talking about the importance of storytelling, and we're talking about the different ways we could use this. So the first question we have is, how much tweaking can we do after the first draft? As of right now, since it's very new, not much, but they are actively working on it. And you should definitely join the Agent Opus Discord server linked in the description. Let them know what you'd like. They make almost all their tools heavily based on feedback. I have a question on what's the max length. There is a length, but it is more so the amount of characters in the story. So it's not characters, it's actually words. So currently you can only have 450 words. Made this, yes, and it made it based on stories you tell it. And there are lots of styles. So as we are looking through here, I do want to take a moment, to just call out some of these styles. And Roberto, I challenged you, if you remember at the start of this, because I have a creative vision for whatever story you have. But do you have a story particularly maybe with like us? Because I have one in mind if you don't. And
which one do you have in mind first?
I would love to. You've never heard, you were there when we surprised you for your birthday party, but I don't know if you knew the behind the scenes to make that happen.
I don't know the behind the scenes. Was this my VidCon 2018?
Yes. And people might notice a theme. A lot of these are at conferences. Conferences are a weird animal. I love them to death, but the weirdest things that'll ever happen to you at your life will happen to you at a conference.
I'm speaking at Social Media Marketing World this year. I'm back.
And it's going to be in Anaheim this year.
It's going to be in Anaheim this year.
You want to see Roberto Blake in person, you should go check out Social Media Marketing World or one of the many other events he will probably share on his X. But Roberto, while I am writing this up, I am going to ask, what are your thoughts on just the future of storytelling with a tool like this? And this will give me an opportunity to start typing.
These tools will turn thoughts into things at record speed, like we've never seen before, which means your moat will no longer be your technical ability if you have tools. Tools will eliminate the moat, which is going to upset people who are already established. It's going to be great for people starting out. Like the people who are angry about this are people who are entrenched and who have a fan base. So it's established creators and artists and creative types and creative pros who have a career, have a fan base that they worked hard on. And a lot of us, our edge, even me, a lot of our edge was, I'm better at using these tools than you. A lot of it was, haha, I've spent 10 years mastering my craft and this technique, and I can execute it better than 80, 90% of people. That was our edge. Not any original ideas, sometimes being first to market, sure, sometimes not, sometimes being late to the market and being able to outperform an early to market person because we had tools, training, and techniques that gave us an edge. Those will be eliminated as a advantage. And the fact also is, and now not, and the people who decide to be Luddites about it, who decide to be purist about it, who say, well, I have all these skills, so I'm not going to use these tools this way by using AI features of tools. I'll just do everything manually. They're going to lose on speed because somewhere out there was always someone more creative than them that never had the time, money, the benefit of mentors, the benefit of education, to catch up to them on tools, training, and technique, and just time freedom. Somebody who was like a broke kid in Louisiana or Alabama or something like that, but wildly creative, great storyteller, great imagination, that just never had the time because they had to work 60 hours a week. Somebody who never had the money because they grew up poor. They're in Appalachia or something. They're in the trailer park. They're in the hood, whatever. Someone who never could get the good software because everything went to a subscription model and they couldn't bootleg anymore. Somebody who didn't have the extra time to where even if they could get a mentor to have the training, it wouldn't matter because they wouldn't have the time to practice, execute, let alone produce anything, not anything of quality. Their imagination was just being squandered because they had no way to turn a thought into a thing that was reasonable for them, for where their life just happened to end up, probably through no fault of their own. As much as people criticize AI, for anyone who's always wanted things to so-called be more fair, wanted a fair playing field, wanted a lot of these things to not be the domain of people who just had the wealth or the resources or the time freedom, this is your equality. This is your great equalizer. This is your lowering of the barrier to entry. This is giving everybody a fair floor. This is your deliverance. I mean, I can't really say it any other way. This is your great equalizer. And okay, you don't like it. I don't think it would matter if people thought things are built on ethical models or not. I just don't think people like the fact that something that they spent a decade developing an advantage over is going to be put in the hands of somebody who didn't put in the same decade to get to the same result as them, and something that they spend 50 hours on and then they built a system to get it done in 20 hours is going to be able to deliver as good or a better result in 20 or 30 minutes, or God forbid 5 minutes. I don't think they like that. I also don't think that they like that somebody who is just more creative than them will now be able to compete with them, and that gatekeeping is now over, because there are so many great stories out there, Andrew. There are so many people that could be the next J.R. Tolkien, Terry Goodkind, Elizabeth Hayden, Jane Lindskold, J.K. Rowling, but for the ability to have access to the resources, to have time to actually do it. And the AI tools like Agent Opus are going to be those people's deliverance, and they are going to be the disruptors, and they're going to come for the crown and the gatekeepers of the people that thought being the institution or the establishment media for 10, 20 years meant that they were safe and that they didn't have to try anymore.
And, you know, with things like this, if you have a style that is already established, or you have an interest in some of those, maybe you don't want to support the original artist, or it's public domain, you know, these are ways that you can use established stories to try and experiment with. So I went ahead.
What if I
wanna
told
show,
the Count of Monte Cristo in Lego?
I mean, in theory, you
Legos,
could. And then
Legos Count of Monte
450
Cristo.
character.
Huh?
You have 450 characters, but I definitely think you could do it.
In the future, when you can just buy a higher limit or something like that, you'd have the ability
Oh, absolutely.
to do that. Or you could do it in vignettes, or you could do the, hey, can I do the 60-minute book summary of the Count of Monte Cristo, but in Lego form? Think about
True.
it. You could do 60-second summaries, like 60-second story. You could literally make an account, call it 60-second stories, and you can write a script that's the 60-second version of the greatest stories of all time that are all public domain.
True.
All the classics.
And I mean, that's what a lot of old school entertainment companies did. But we have the modern and the now. So I was spending that time while Roberto was, one, well thought points. Two,
Thank you for giving me a TED Talk.
No, 100%. But two, I have a couple of surprise and delights. And that's something I want to really focus on, what I think this does well. So if you're just joining us, because I see we're up to 90 folks, thank you for joining us. So this is Agent Opus. You may know it, but there's a new mode called story mode. Now in story mode, in story mode, it'll be right here. It is in beta. Some people will have it. If you have it, let us know what you think. In story mode, you can then select one of your visual styles or add your own. Now, Roberto, I came up with my own based on kind of what I think you would like. And it's the prompt of a noir vigilante style. Create an illustration in a gritty, high-contrast comic book style inspired by the 1980s dark urban graphic novels. I think Roberto knows where I'm going with this, but we'll see how it does.
Nice.
I thought you might like that one. So,
wait, it lets you put an image in there if you want a reference image, right?
correct.
Oh, okay.
So I like describing what I want because I'm trying to blend two styles, and this doesn't exist yet. So the limit is our imagination, right? So I'm hoping it does it well. It does it pretty good, but it's also based on how well I describe what I'm asking. And then we have the behind the scenes. Now, I will be transparent. I did write some of it, but I asked AI to fill gaps, so it might be a little inaccurate. I'll give you some behind the scenes when we're done, Roberto,
Sure.
to get it done. But here is what we have. And what you'll see is this is the transcript. Now, I'm a little over the limit. I've gotten a little long-winded here. Here is our 450 limit. So there are some places I could, really go.
You know what other AI like ChatGPT or Claude are good for? It's really good at say, hey, make this more concise, lose none of the details or context.
Exactly.
And
I'm
do it
trying to
within this
figure out-
character limit.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what can I actually get rid of.
I would literally just copy and paste it into ChatGPT or Claude and then give it the prompt I gave you, which is, hey, I have a 450 character limit. I need you to make this more concise and lose none of the context, details, or tone.
I feel like this can go. Like, there's not too much I need to, and I agree, but just for sake of time,
Sure.
there's a few things. Making sure everything looks right, and
Sure.
we are darn close.
Yeah. We got someone who says, it's Duke Skyrunner says, loving the instant voice cloning feature. My early morning whiskey voice became a full-on trailer narrator with AI. Wild. I wish I sounded like that all the time.
Fair enough. I think I can find out.
I do think,
Okay, well, one
if
word
you want
over.
to let me, pontificate a while, like my vision for what content creation and storytelling of the future looks like is that
got it,
somebody will be able to, we'll revisit this in a minute then. Great.
No. Please keep going.
Oh, it's still
but
processing.
It's going
Okay.
to process as we're going. And so this is a true, we started this. Roberto has not heard this story, hasn't seen the style. So again, you got to
You'll get
remember,
my real reaction.
we're getting real reactions, and also we're seeing the ability to tell stories in a different way. So keep going, Roberto.
Yeah, I think the future of storytelling is, so imagine some young person or even some not some young person will be able to sit there and let's say they had an idea in their head. Even if, let's say they have actual drawing ability. Let's say you're like me. Let's say you're like me. When I was young, I grew up and I had thought that I was going to be the next Stan Lee or Walter Disney, or at a minimum, I was going to go work for them. With the way that company's been going in leadership, it's probably for the best that I didn't. But the thing that I look at is back then I was limited by my circumstances, my background, my financially, my limited amount of resources, the technology of my time, and the expense of getting access to it were all prohibitive to me achieving that dream just based on where I was in life. If I was a young person today, though, or even if I was who I am right now today, I had traditional art skills. I could draw my own characters. And if I had this technology today, I could draw my own characters. And then, because I'd either have a full workload, full school load, family, whatever, if I didn't have the time to animate something, it's still my art. It's still my creativity and vision. But now I don't have to master these other level skills of being a colorist. I also don't have to come up with the money to say, okay, I can draw and I can do character design, but I can't do this thing, can't do this thing. And I don't have to hire somebody else because, again, it's not about, you're trying to exploit systems to avoid having to pay somebody. It's that there are people who, frankly, are rich and have always been rich, and they can do something. I shouldn't have to be able to be rich to have the ability to make something. I just shouldn't. And nobody should be defending or believing that that's the system we should have is, hey, you cannot do this unless you're rich, right? So there's a way I can do it. Some people would just disagree with it. So I would use the tool that lets me overcome that barrier for me of money and time and say, I have original art and original characters and original story that I've come up with. I want to be able to make a feature-length animated film inspired by all the wonderful people that I grew up, like with Don Bluth, for example. I can draw in that style. I have my own story, I have my own characters, I want to bring something to life, and I just don't have the money and budget to compete with people who are already rich. And maybe I don't want to raise money because I don't want to promise fans something through fan funding and be in a position not to deliver without showing them a finished product. Or maybe I don't want VC money, because look at all the creators that are getting VC money, private equity, and maybe I don't want to lose my voice, my free speech, and be told what to do, or have them try to steal my creation and exploit me as an artist. So if I want to be an independent artist, a truly independent artist, maybe I just don't even get along with other people. That's okay. Maybe I can't hire other people, even if I had the money, because I just can't get along with them, and they would want to compromise my art, my vision, and it wouldn't be my voice, it would be this collective voice, and maybe my art and my vision is just something more pure to me than that. So for me, ironically, I actually do have an ethical framework for using these tools where I would want to take my art, I would want to animate it myself and write the story myself and not have somebody else have a say and not have someone else tell me what my art is or what to make or how to make it. And so I could take my own drawings and I could now animate my still life drawings and I can have them with color, and I don't have to become a background artist, and I can have these wonderful, beautiful, lush backgrounds for it, and I can bring it to life. And then I could do all the voice acting myself. I can go ahead and act and perform it because I know what I envisioned it being. I know what I wanted them to say. I know how I wanted it delivered. I wanted it to be all of these things. And now I can use a voice changer and I can get all of the voices and characters exactly how I would have wanted it. And then I can do that. I might have a song in my head, but not be a great musician, not be a composer, not be able to write sheet music. Andrew, with these AI tools, I could sit there and I could hum the bars for, or the strings or anything for any of the instruments, and I could compose a song that wasn't really made by a computer. It was made by me. I just didn't have the skills to bring it to life, and it's still mine. It's still mine. I would own the mechanical because that was my melody. That was my drum section. That was my kit. That was my hit hats, all done with my mouth and me beatboxing. If I want to beatbox, I could turn beatbox into actual music with AI. That would still be me. It's not the machine. The machine's just expressing my thought and turning it into a tangible thing. And so I would have this and I'd be able to do a full length animated feature with my original characters, my story, my music composition, and me delivering the voice and truly bringing these characters to life. And I could just do that by myself with zero resources in terms of having all this private equity, hiring a massive team, doing all of these things, because the technology of our time means there are no limits on storytelling for anybody. And what's so wrong about that? What? Because of how we got there? Because the ethics and everything? You want to know what the ethics are of the electricity you use every day? Or do you care? Do you care about the ethics of the iPhone that you have? And probably not. There's probably nothing you use that doesn't have some dark backstory of how you got the technology. So how is this any different? That's where I'm at with it. And I think the future of storytelling looks bright.
And, in a little different direction, you still can have a lot of creativity here. If Roberto has his own drawings, he would want to feed it as an example of an art style. Roberto can then use his style and then have it animate in that way, which for Roberto to then, transfer that, it's still him. He still has to tell the story. He still has to do a lot of the parts. And look, this is one of the things that can help accelerate your creativity. Like, you could still edit this further. Like in that last story, there were places where I could do some sound design to really punch up the story. And like my creativity is now a lot different than I thought before, because now it really is your imagination. And the reason we keep having this on screen is I wanted to give people an idea,
of the
it's
real
working
time
on the script. Yeah. But also, one thing to keep in mind is this is going in real time. Like this to animate for me would take me years to learn, and it would take, by the time it's done, I don't know if the interest in the story is there, but like this right here, and Daniel said, well, be right here. This is me, the narrator. Like there's so many creative decisions it made that even if you're like stuck in like how you should film something, it could get your creative juices going in real life. Now, obviously, some of the stuff we can't do, but like just different
Dude,
shot selections it had, I thought were pretty fun.
I
And
have
it,
the ultimate use case.
let's hear it.
Imagine being able to do a YouTube commentary or gossip or even news channel and then animate the story that you're telling of the thing that happened,
Wow.
and now you can just animate it in whatever style you want, and basically you can be the Lego version of any quote unquote drama, gossip, tabloid type story, all in Lego form now
That's
in real time while it's still relevant and hot.
I mean, that's the future we're at. And it's still loading. It's just going to take some time. But
And
you
the
know,
thing is,
while
YouTube couldn't say it's unoriginal content because you just write and perform the script. You literally could just say the thing, and now you don't ever have to be on camera yourself as the commentator. So basically, you can do what Sunny V2 does, but it would just be animated.
Mhm. Now, as someone, I know, Roberta, you are someone who enjoys animation. Is there any styles that in your head you would like to see some
Anime,
stories, or you've always anime?
always anime.
I figured, but like when you think, you've taken a lot of photography. Maybe there's like a really cool or artistic shot you've taken, and you would like to see that world
Yes.
exist. Like that to me is where I could see the creativity going farther.
I also think even just using photo references to say I could actually just use a photo reference of a real location. I can find something open source. I can find something thing or take the photos myself or whatever from travel or whatever, and then I can tell a story of that place.
Absolutely. And I think that that's what, when it comes to growth, people always say
Oh, I could animate all my drone footage.
you could. You could do a lot with this. And like that's something people always say is like, storytelling is important and like it can enhance your videos. So if you're having a podcast, like I don't know about you, Roberto, but podcast stories could be elevated really well with this,
YouTube is
especially.
working on a native feature for that.
Mm-hmm.
Six
And
styles, I
so
believe they're going 6 or 9 styles, I think.
And the cool thing about what, Opus Clip and Agent Opus are doing is like the ability to like come up with your own style, how quick it is. The fact you can do 16 by 9, 9 by 16, all the different sizes. Would you ever consider, because you have a lot of different teaching stories or different, like, how would you see yourself as a creator using this in your current, your current workflow?
Potentially could be interesting to do animated case studies.
Hmm. I'd be interested to
In
see
my
that.
current thing, though, if I did that, in theory, I might paywall that. If I'm being honest, that might be like members bonus material.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I could see myself doing that. I could see if I ever wanted to do something just creatively, like Nick Nimmin does. If I ever wanted to do something creative, like how Nick Nimmin occasionally does the music videos. If there was a real time moment in the creator space that was really interesting, I could end up making a music video or anthem that represents that moment. Think
That's
about it. I could have made, think about it. I could use it and I could make, like, from a community standpoint, think about how everything was so wild about Mr. Beast beating T Series. And
hmm.
imagine being the creator that makes the animated music video that represents that moment in story in time.
I mean, a lot of channels got a lot of growth during those times by, reporting on that and by being up to date on it and being able to approach it. One thing this can help you do is approach this at a different angle. For me, I would use this because I like a lot of it. I would still use it to show an artist what I'm looking for, what I'm trying to get and do. So that to me would be like, because again, I have a lot of friends that are animators and teams, and like a lot of us want to do projects. So for me, being able to give the idea and have them have reference, this would make that team go a lot faster. Roberto, you look like you've had a revelation.
YouTube, the animated series.
Oh, ooh, the
YouTube, the
history.
animated series, storytelling series that captures the most significant moments in YouTube's history and animates them. And
Ooh,
so that people have those stories and it becomes the ultimate time capsule of the YouTube community.
wow.
YouTube
That
animated series.
I mean that, and again, the fact is, like, you know, we talk about consistency, and that you with this, you know, as it gets better, you could have a consistent 2D style. You could have a lot of different animation styles. You could A/B test what styles you like and your audience likes. So, like, the cool thing of it all is if Roberto is like, I really like this style, and as they get better, like, you could maintain a pretty decent style and find what you like and what resonates. And as it gets better, so will you. And one thing I've found is it's made me become a, like, weirdly, I've had to get much better at details and telling a story here, because sometimes I'm not as descriptive as I think I need to be. So it's weirdly made me in the last few days like get better at like writing narrative for, like, because I can explain something, but the way we explain it and the way it would visually show a narrative isn't always one for one, you know?
I hear that.
Now we have some more questions. Could you have it
And I sent you
custom
a question in the private chat too.
animated style? Currently, we can only do like images. So it's one of those things where it really depends on how much they allow us to do in the future. This is still new. And so I would like to say right now, no, but most likely in the future. But again, the Agent Opus team will tell you more than me. You can ask in their Discord. So I replied to you, by the way, Roberto. But I saw from London with Susan, she asked, I am correct. We copy and paste. Yes. And you can't upload a document of your script yet. It's just copy and pasting it at this time. But that could change. And again, a lot of what they have, and like, even like, I've gotten the ability to play around with it. It's already gotten really pretty good, and it's getting better. And I think that goes to show the team over at Opus. And, you know, this still does take time. You know, we're almost done here. Like, if we go back to taking a look at how long, we're at 69%. It's working on transitions. It's got a custom style, but still, for me to animate as much as it's going to do here, even as we've done live, I'm not that good at animation. Roberto, this would have taken me genuinely years of my life.
Yeah.
And then,
For,
you know,
for
Roberto would
potentially
never
zero
know.
return.
Just because you work hard, and, you know, actually, I'll go put us back. And this is something I'd love your opinion on. Just because you put a lot of time and effort into a video does not guarantee its success.
Look, just because you work really hard baking or cooking and it doesn't come out good doesn't mean I'm gonna, like, you know, you're not gonna necessarily get a great reaction out of me just because you worked really hard on that. It sounds rude, but think about it. When you go to a restaurant and you sit down, you know, you pay your money. It's like, it doesn't matter how hard the chef or the staff worked. If it turns out that it's bad food or bad service, it's bad food or bad service, regardless of the effort, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I mean, I have a story right there. Like, the thing is, when you described that, immediately a story came to mind. And, like, that's how we're wired. I could put that in. Long story short, we went to a very nice steakhouse. We ordered a steak, you know, medium. We were with a large party. We got our steak so late that our party finished eating, and when we finally got our steak,
This wasn't the time I came with you guys in San Diego, was it?
No, it was a separate thing. It took so long. My steak was well done, and this was like $140 steak they were trying to make me pay for, and my partner said, no, we're not paying for this, and you're gonna get us a new one. But what ended up happening is our party was done, and then we got our steak, and we're sitting here holding up the party, right? So you mentioned bad experiences. That's an experience where thankfully the restaurant was, you know, they understood they messed up, they comped us that meal, but it ended up taking away time. It ended up, you know, the steak was good, but that was the second attempt. And just like when we make content, sometimes we get it right on a second stab at a video topic we thought would do well the first time.
You know, as content creators, I see this all the time, especially in different communities, on X, on Reddit, especially on Reddit, where there's this sense that, well, I work really hard, so shouldn't YouTube just give me the monetization from day one because I worked really hard on this? Or, oh, it's not fair. The algorithm is random, or it rewards luck, or you have to have an in or something like that. I work really hard and I don't get anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, again, just because you work really hard on something, just because you put a lot of effort in it, effort doesn't always translate to quality, and effort doesn't always translate to value.
True. And I think that effort doesn't translate to value has been one of those things where it is definitely part of the learning process, whether you are using AI or you're creating yourself, right? Like we've talked a lot about with the short splits, sometimes you might be spending too much effort on the parts that the audience doesn't care about. So all of what we're talking about here,
Too much effort in
today,
the wrong place doesn't yield any additional value, any additional movement, any addition. Think about it like
it
this.
can also hurt you. Like
Think
if
about
you're
it.
working out,
If I
you're
keep
doing it
pushing on a
wrong.
door that says pull, yeah, there's a certain amount of brute force that probably does get it done. It's not a good result, nor is it a good idea.
No, you're not wrong. I am seeing from Monique, gimme, gimme, gimme. We are almost there.
Gimme.
But like I'm seeing a lot of surprise, a lot of delight in the chat. I mean, I'm excited to see this as well. And I think that what we're talking about
I think
today,
the fact that it's processing so long is kind of like, okay, this is not some, I think it belies the whole, oh, you just typed something in and got something. You didn't do any effort. Like, it's like, this reminds me of back in the day when we just sit around and wait for something to render.
dial-up days. Well, I mean, again, ideally you're not doing this as we are, but we wanted to show you in real time what it takes. And it still takes time. But, what I also will tell you is the fact that, Roberto and I have had, like, there's so many stories you still have in you to tell. And I wouldn't put these on my main channel. Oh, here we are. But man, it's so far, it's showing promise.
You can put it on your secondary platforms just for fun or something. Again, this
I
is
could
why I
put
say
this on my Instagram.
members only content. People who already pay you can enjoy it.
So Roberto and I have never seen this. This is our first reactions. So I know the story. I actually am curious how it'll do. Now, this one is a little bit longer, 2 minutes and 41 seconds, but I will have to say it's picked up the styles I wanted it to pick up. And I don't know about you, Roberto, but I'm very interested to see how it does. So without further ado, I'm going to unmute it. Then I'll mute it at the end so there's no Roberto echo. Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Let's do it, everyone. This is live. And here's the Roberto Blake birthday party story.
VidCon 2018 was already coming at us fast, but this was before the crowds, before the panels, before the full convention chaos even started. We were still in setup mode. The days leading up to VidCon are their own kind of madness. Hauling gear, building out the booth, coordinating team schedules, making sure everything looks right. But in the middle of all of it, we had one more mission. We needed to surprise Roberto Blake for his birthday. It started as an offhand thought, like, there's no way we're letting this week go by without doing something. And immediately it turned into a full team operation. Katie was deep in booth and party setup with the team, making sure everything was ready on the ground. Phil was doing what Phil always does, thinking 5 steps ahead, quietly coordinating people, timing, and logistics so Roberto wouldn't find out. Meanwhile, I was at the airport with Aaron and Ike, running between terminals, checking messages, juggling travel schedules, and trying to keep this surprise moving in the background. VidCon prep doesn't slow down for birthdays. At some point, we realized the cake was the missing piece. Someone had to go get it, fast, without blowing the surprise. So I grabbed a lift and headed out, thinking it would be a quick in-and-out mission. Easy. I was watching the clock, thinking about how much still needed to happen back at the venue, when suddenly, the driver pulled out way too quickly and didn't check both sides of the road. For a split second, my stomach dropped. It genuinely felt like this whole plan was about to end with me and a birthday cake flying into traffic before VidCon even started. I remember just sitting there thinking, are we seriously about to get taken out on a birthday mission? Thankfully, nothing happened. We made it. Cake secured, I rushed back while Katie and the team kept everything moving. Booth setup, party details, last-minute coordination, all of it happening at once. Back at the venue, Phil was quietly gathering people, making sure the right faces in the right place, keeping Roberto distracted, keeping the energy calm on the surface, even though everyone was sprinting underneath. And then the moment finally landed. Roberto walked in, completely unaware. And suddenly the room shifted. Surprise! The look on his face made every airport sprint, every chaotic setup moment, and that near-miss lift ride completely worth it. Before VidCon even officially began, we had already created one of the most memorable moments of the week. Not content, not networking, just a real birthday surprise for a friend.
And that is the Roberto Blake VidCon story.
Was this VidCon 2018?
Yes, it was. I almost died for you.
Thank you.
Because of a
Did we ever get photos and video of that?
I have a video vlog actually of that, of your birthday. So yes,
Yeah.
I didn't have of me almost dying because I didn't think to film it. But yeah, we were juggling a lot. But if, as you saw, the surprise and delight, I'm so surprised. Like, it nailed what I was going for. I did put multiple comic books. It definitely found one it really liked, and I think we can all figure out which comic it really liked. You know, no kidding. I said multiple comic inspirations, but like, let's talk about stuff like this. Roberto's birthday. I also love how there's like in jokes pay off a beat cop. Like, what?
I think that it did pick up that in the back of your head, you probably wanted more Frank Miller, whether it's Sin City or not, Frank Miller and everything. It did get Frank Miller's Batman run pretty well in there, because that's like Frank Miller's Batman run. Like,
Pretty much.
Yeah, so it got a lot of that. It clearly got some inspiration from Watchmen as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
yeah,
like,
I can see
even
it.
the reflections it did were
That's wild.
impressive. Like, some of the stuff it was able to come up with, I was genuinely blown away. Like, if I were to do this again, I wouldn't have probably done it in this style, but I was curious if it would get it. I gave it this.
That's probably what I see. What took so long now?
Right. But if we look, I think the payoff was worth it. And we'll have chapters for the replay, but like, a lot of what it was able to do, like even subtle things, like having the Canon camera, having a creator on a laptop, you know, it really understood a lot. So I also noticed like there's rain falling actively in this.
Yeah, it's wild. As
So-
someone, it takes me to actually animate rain and to go over it in After Effects. It actually takes, I know how to do it, and it but I still always have to double check a tutorial to do it still, because I just have so few times that I need to generate rain. But it like, it takes me a minute to do that, let alone render it. So like, doing it and rendering probably would take me about half. Just the rain would take me about half the time of the whole bloody thing we did. So I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Pardon me. And as this gets better, I hope we can share styles. Now, I will tell you, I did not give it, I gave it multiple comic books that I was looking for inspiration. I didn't give it the exact comics because I wanted to see what it would pull from. So I said, you know, I said a bright, stunning metropolis, kind of hoping a couple, it really decided we're doing
No, we're doing
Batman.
Gotham.
We're doing Gotham. We're doing Frank Miller's version specifically. I'm not mad, but it's interesting because like there were parts where I was like, I tried to get it to do part of it halfway. And again, this is limitations, but as I keep going, you know, I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm excited to see, but like even bakery, grocery, the city feeds on itself, like the little comic book touches it did really goes to show like your only limitation is your creativity and who you surround yourself with. And if you want to see some of the things that this can do, we really recommend scan that QR code. Give it a shot yourself. It's still
Absolutely.
in beta. Some of you will have access, but you know, we've talked a lot about, you know, how you could use this for storytelling. Roberto had some really good points. Roberto, if people want to keep hearing your good points, where can they find you?
You can find me over on X at robertoblake.com. You can find me on Instagram at Roberto Blake. You can find me at X, Instagram, Threads. You can find me everywhere at Roberto Blake. You can find me on YouTube at Roberto Blake. And of course, if you want to work with me, you can go check out www.awesomecreatoracademy.com. And of course, you can find me every Saturday here on the Opus Clip stream.
Yeah, and we go live Thursdays and Saturdays here at Opus Clip. We talk about new features. We talk about the state of YouTube, so you should consider subscribing. Thank you all so much for joining us, and let us know, what do you plan to create with Agent Opus Story Mode? Take care, everyone. Thank you.